I know it's a story that you're probably telling a lot right now, but the story of this album is notable because of where it came from and why.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it took me by surprise because I had been feeling very uninspired for quite a while, and just I felt like I had nothing to say, nothing to write about, and I was wondering if I would ever feel the desire to write a song ever again. And then the presidential election started happening, all that stuff, the run up to the election, and then the election, and then I just suddenly had a whole lot that I wanted to write about. And so the album was very much inspired by current events and just the situation and how people are feeling. And the writing and the recording all happened very fast, and it was almost as if I was not even fully conscious of it. I was being pulled along by this creative force, and yeah, it was just something that I was compelled to do, and it took me by surprise, and I guess that's what happens sometimes.
You know, it's interesting though, as I'm talking to a lot of artists who are writing about similar themes, it's you almost have an advantage on them though about the directness of these songs because most of them were writing from the point of view of what if this happens. And I'm finding a lot of artists that, they started writing the record at the beginning of 2016 or whatever when it was just like a what if this happens, what would it look like? And suddenly their songs sort of take on a change, but you had the unfortunate luxury of being very fresh about it all.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried about it actually because that part of the urgency I felt about recording it and having it released was I was afraid that by the time the album was released, the subject matter would be not relevant anymore because everything changes so fast, and I thought maybe the songs would be obsolete already by the time the record came out. Like, there's a song called Kellyanne, and maybe by the time anyone heard the song, Kellyanne would have been fired. Like who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So I tried not to use too many specific details about, factual details. I did use the name Kellyanne, but I think that the song there's a history of songs whose titles are female names. There's tons and tons of them, and I thought that the song could fit into that tradition of a complicated song about a woman, complicated feelings about a woman. And so, I was thinking ahead, like in case Kellyanne disappears off the scene, like Katrina Pearson, remember her?
No.
The former spokeswoman. See, she disappeared. She kind of did. She was a spokesman for Trump like a while ago, and she kind of disappeared. And so I was aware that Kellyanne could also disappear, but I wanted my song to still be enjoyable. So,
with all due respect, I sort of wish that your songs had become irrelevant.
I mean, I really think that the album is just grappling with a lot of confusion and anger, and I think that the issues are going to continue to be problems. The issues that I'm grappling with and the issues and the feelings are going to continue to be problems into the future. So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that the issues on the record are going to be relevant until the end of the world. Issues like sexism and stuff like that.
I did when I was reading the press release on it. I and the way you kind of explain your songs in the same way you're doing there. It's like you were going through the 7 stages of grief.
Yeah, I mean, the situation has forced me to accept the realities. I'm at the acceptance stage. I'm accepting the fact that certain things like sexism and racism are here to stay. Above all, that's what this election has made clear, that sexism, racism, etc. are so entrenched, ingrained, and endemic in this culture. And that became really clear last year and this year. And so I think that's what I've really come to terms with.
Yeah, which is horrible when you think about that. I mean, and I'll use the seg here to bring up even just the title of Impossible Song. That was the first single here, and there is those times where it does feel completely impossible that you could see the schism that's out there being able to be stitched together in some way.
Yeah, it does feel like the country is more divided than ever. I mean, it just seems that way. I don't know if it's true. I haven't been alive forever, but I also do think. I mean, the extremes are just becoming more clear. You know, the gaps are widening, and the feelings are getting stronger from each side, and so in a way that's good, because you see something like the Women's March that happened, which was like one of the largest, if not the largest ever march on Washington. That's a good thing, you know. And people are very energized and motivated and mobilizing, and that's good. For people to be waking up is a good thing. And I also do believe that, I mean, the Impossible Song is kind of a fantasy, the fantasy that people will, you know, be able to tone down their rage and just like step back and find things in common. I do think that when it really matters, in crucial crisis moments, people can do the right thing no matter what side they're on. And I talk about it I think I explained the song somewhere. I was writing about the song somewhere, the Impossible Song somewhere, and the idea that, you know, like we all might have to rely on the kindness of a stranger at some point. Like if something happens, like you know, if I fall down in the middle of the street and I can't get up and there's a car coming, hopefully someone will see and come and grab me and pull me out of the road. And it won't matter if that person loves Trump or hates Trump, and it won't matter if I love Trump or hate Trump. You know, I think that there are moments where our common humanity has to take precedence over anything else. Yeah. And I believe that it can and does, but still there's a lot of stuff that's really bad right now.
Yeah. And we've been there before. You know, I think in some ways we've been here before, and I think we have gotten to that point. But when you're in the thick of it, you know, forest for the trees scenario, it's a bit daunting, I guess.
Yeah.
So hopeful. There are definitely more direct songs, and we'll talk about, you know, the anger side of things, as I've only heard the trio of singles that are out there. But Short Finger Man, right. You've done this great job of writing just a great sing-along, if you want. Yeah. You know, that becomes very directed. And by the way, the video is mesmerizing. The way it's edited, it's completely mesmerizing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I shot all that stuff myself, and then I sent all this footage to Caroline Jakes in New York, and I know she's a really good young editor, and I knew that like editing is what she likes to do, and she just did such a good job. She constructed a narrative out of all of my random footage, and she did a great job, I think.
I don't know if it's outside of the politics, but there was one spot in an interview or in the press release that you said this is also a personal record. And I sort of got curious about your use of that word, if you were alluding to something else that was not exactly political, or it was more, you know, the old action movie line of now it's personal.
Well, the songs are really about my feelings. I'm trying to deal with my rage and my confusion and my disgust and my little glimmers of hopefulness, and, you know, all that stuff. It is personal. It's my reactions and my discomfort, you know, my discomfort with my own reactions, and trying not to be reactionary, and trying to deal with the anxiety of looking at the news and stuff. And so it is really all about me, in a way, if you want to look at it like that. And just the things going on in the country and the culture have forced me and a lot of other people to have to deal with things in our own pasts. Like when the Pussy Grab leaked tapes came out. Remember that?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. The Pussy Grab, the Trump joking about grabbing a woman in the pussy. That really was a defining moment in my life, I think. And I think probably a lot of other women's lives. And it just, all of this stuff from my past, back to my childhood, up through the present day, came rushing back up into my consciousness. Some of it even maybe for the first time, realizing a lifetime of dealing with shit like that. Like, I don't want to equate sexism with racism because they're different, but, you know, black people have to deal with racism every day of their lives. Women have to deal with sexism every day of their lives. They're different, but there are similarities. And I always kind of ignored it. I was very stoic about it, like, whatever. I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to get on with it, do my job. But when that happened, when the man who was about to become the most powerful man in the country was saying these things, it just became really clear that it just became so clear how pervasive sexism and misogyny truly are. And that changed me somehow. Having to confront that reality really consciously. I've always written about it. I've always, from Dame with a Rod on my first Atlantic album, and I've always had protest songs and anti-sexism songs, anti-abuse, anti-emotional abuse. I've always been writing about it, but only half consciously, and now I think I'm just like finally fully conscious about the realities of things.
And I guess that's what I'd go back to something you said earlier about, that you expect that it will always be there. But at the same time, now that it's so much in the conversation, there's got to be some hope that does push everything in a more positive. That if more people are talking about it,
it could also just push it in a more violent direction because people are more conscious and less willing to let it happen.
Yeah,
I think that the Trump. The election, the campaign in the election has empowered a lot of hateful people to release their hate publicly and proudly, and that is frightening. But no, maybe it also will lead to more people fighting against hatred and lies. And it's just who knows what will come from this. It's frightening, but it's also kind of interesting to see, changes or what changes will happen.
Yeah.
From now.
Well, all of these things going into this record, I know it's, I don't know, it's the freedom of letting these songs arrive as they are so quick. I know a lot of artists don't really take the chance, and you've talked about being a little bit frightened that it came so fast and it was out there, but it does put such a specific time stamp on them. But I've got to applaud you on the way you've made them. I mean, even if it did all go away tomorrow, I think these songs would still, have a purpose and a relevance and would still sound great too.
Thanks. I hope so. I hope they're not totally irrelevant. I don't think they will be. I think they'll still like I said, I have a long history of throwing protest songs in among my albums. People might not notice, but this is just this album just has more protest songs than my other albums do, I think.
And outside of that, I'll also say, is it possible that your voice has not changed in 25 or 30 years?
Oh, don't say that. I hope it has. I mean, no. I mean, you can go back and listen to the Blake Babies. My voice has definitely gotten a little bit lower, I think. Yeah. A little bit.
Just a little bit, though. I mean, it's
a little.
It's still so, I don't know. I don't know the word for it, but you have a very smooth
Well, it's because I have
a
clear, you know why? It's because I have a clear conscience. And I live, it's also clean living. I've never been into drugs or drinking a lot. So I think that maybe that helps. I don't know. Maybe it's just genetic. I try to live a clean, healthy life and have a clear conscience and not have secrets and lies in my life.
Well, it's worked. You still sound fantastic.
Thank you. I'm tired now. You can hear my voice. It's like, morning. I have a morning voice right now.
Yeah, I brought that up, and someone published that. I think it was Diffuser. They, the 25th anniversary of going solo. Had you even realized that? Because I thought I saw a tweet that it sounded like you hadn't even paid attention to that.
No. I mean, I lose track of time. I don't keep track of my history and I always hated history in school. Dates. I don't keep track of dates and I can't even tell you how many albums I've made. I lost track of that. And there are so many side projects and collaborations. I really can't even count the albums at this point. I'm not really an anniversary marker. I'm not an anniversary celebrator. I don't really care about that stuff. And it just surprises me though when I realize how fast time goes. It's kind of shocking.
Yeah. Well, somebody out there is keeping track for us all, so
that's good. Yeah, there are archivists out there who do that work for me without my knowing it.
Well, Juliana, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today, and I'm so excited about this record, at least for the sound of it and the fun songs, aside from the content. But I do love it, so thank you so much for talking.
Well, thanks for talking to me.
And we'll see you around.
Okay.
All right,
bye.
Take care. Bye.